Hey everybody, hey, we're doing some mow curb today, or the mower style curb that everybody out there in the country refers it to. I've talked about this in other videos. We don't even offer this curb anymore. This is really popular back in the 90s and 20-25 years ago. They call it a mow curb, because they can, on a push mower, you can ride your wheel on there, and it's supposed to make it easier to trim. There's pros and cons to this. Obviously, your slant style curb that we do most of is the same height in the front as this style of curb. So your front ledge is the same height, so you can run your wheel on that slant style curb and it's going to do exactly the same thing as this. The thing is, because this is called a mow curb. Did you hit that twice, buddy? Oh, okay. Because this is called a mow curb, people think they'd never have to trim again. Okay, you have to tell your customers curbing does not eliminate trimming. Okay, it makes it easier to trim. Okay, it takes less time and so on. But if they get the idea in their head that they never have to trim again, they're going to call you back and say, hey, I mow this, I still have to trim. Okay, I want it done over, whatever. It does not eliminate trimming. Okay, so make sure you tell your customers, post that somewhere or whatever. We very rarely do this, and the only reason I'm doing this today is because it's an existing property that had mow curb years ago, and so we have to match this up. I didn't even have the trowel and the mold in my trailer. I had to find it in my shed in a box because we don't do it. I don't even offer it. It's not on my site or anything. If you do offer this, what I do suggest is that you charge more for this, because this is going to be a little bit harder to do and take you a little bit more time than a regular slant style curb. And I will get into that in just a little bit when we continue the video. Yeah, I'll show you how smooth that comes out of the machine. Okay, again, this is the other end. This is making sure that your mix is correct, your sand is correct, and all that. That is very smooth. It's going to be very easy to finish. Okay, now what I'm going to show you on for those of you that are just starting, may not have the experience as far as troweling using a mow curb, this style of trowel. Okay, it's harder with this type of trowel and this type of curb than it is a slant style. Slant style is going to have a nice one smooth surface. It's going to be very easy to get that surface smooth. Here you got three. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the issue is you're gonna have to get all three of these smooth. Okay, so what I do is, normally I'll have my thumb and finger down at the bottom. Okay, you use a gorilla knuckle. I'm gonna get my pinky down at the bottom so I can get pressure going this way, but these fingers here are putting pressure on each one of these faces, and I got my knuckle at the top hitting the top face. Okay, so I got to do all those things now with this trowel that I don't have to do with a slant style curb. If this mix is a little bit dry, it's hard to get these smooth on the inside because of the pressure you need to apply. Okay, so that's why having a troweling lubricant like piss is very important because you can get all those perfect. These mixes are great. They're perfectly soft, so this is going to be really easy to trowel. So I'm going to push forward again, knuckle here. The handle's only to push forward, and I got all my knuckles here trying to get all those faces to make sure I can get everything smooth. It's one of those things where it's, this is the hard part about doing this type of curb. You shouldn't have to go back and forth. Same thing. It's all straightforward. Okay, I do not have a finishing trowel for this type of mow curb. Okay, but I'm going to put the camera over here so you can kind of see my knuckles. I'm on an inside curb right here, so it's easy to get this outside smooth. Again, I got pressure on every one of those faces. It would be so much easier on a slant style. I wouldn't have to do that. That's why this type of curb is more difficult. And that's why most people around the country charge more for this, because it's harder to do. When you start cutting joints is pretty simple, but rolling them with a roller like this takes you twice the time as it would with a slant style curb, which you can just go straight down. When you're doing an end, okay, it takes you twice the time because there's three faces to make sure that you got nice and smooth at the end. When on a slant style curb, it's much easier. Okay, I do not promote this. Like I said, I don't offer it. We're doing this because it's a retrofit on existing stuff. So it's one of those things. It's totally up to you. What you want to charge for it. I know guys in the West really do this every single day, and it's the type of curb they always do. Nobody's going to be able to convince me that this curb is as easy or easier to do than slant style curb, because it's not. Okay, as a curbing guy and guys that are out here finishing, there's no way you can convince me of that. And because if we got one mix that was dry, that'd be a bitch to get that smooth on the front, and you got to work the crap out of all three of those faces and make sure that you got piss on there. Dry mix, no troweling lubricant, it's hell. You know, take a look at how he's doing the joints. He's got to make sure he gets that middle part, and so on. It takes you twice as long, because on a slant style curb you can go straight down. Okay, so if you're doing a bunch of this during the day, you know, the overall job is going to be longer. It's going to be more of a pain in the ass for you. So again, on an inside curve, and I call it gorilla knuckles, because you got all your knuckles on here trying to get pressure wherever you need them. Okay, the thing is, you know, now that your overall hand packing is kind of the same, but once you start finishing the end, it ends up to be a little bit more difficult than a slant trowel, just because you got those extra faces to clean up. I understand what people are going to say, you know, oh, you're lazy, you're a puss, you know, it's whatever. You know, if this is the only job we're doing all day, every day, just a couple hundred feet, then it probably wouldn't be a big deal. But when you're doing 500 to 700 feet and you had to do this every single day, the same curb, I guarantee you, after a while, it's going to start wearing on you, because this test takes longer. I need the fatty in the money. Okay, now we don't have a half trowel for this, so sometimes it's hard to get this face to kind of clean up. I'm just going to kind of bring that down a little bit. With a slant style curb, basically I would round off the edges right now and run my trowel one time, and it would be, you know, essentially pretty much done. Okay, with this, you know, I'm going to have to make sure that I get those faces. Now, for an experienced guy, this isn't going to take them that much longer than normal. Okay, I'm just telling you, because like right now, it's hard to get this smooth here, just because this trowel is square and those areas are round. I do not have a half trowel for this, and I used to make them. I don't have them because I don't use them, because I don't do this curb. Okay, I'm going to do the end just like this, because that's the way we kind of talked about it with the customer. Some of you would continue the end to that thing. This is just how we talked about it, so I'm sure I'll get crap about that too. But anyway, so I'm going to run my trowel one more time over that, or have Trey do it. And you can watch him to see how he uses his fingers on the outside of the curb. That mix is great. Everything closed up on the first pass, but we always run our trowel twice, and you know, to make sure everything's tight on the outside. And then he'll go ahead and you know, cut the joints where they're needed. He's got his thumb on that inside, he's got it on the bottom, he's rolling his knuckle on the top. Okay, overall it's just harder. Okay, so we got 5 different areas here. Line turned out really nice, pretty happy. You can see the difference between those bricks, you know, and the long curves. You can see the curve back there and the tree rings. A lot of guys will ask me too, how come you're not taking out those bricks? How come you're not pulling out the black edging? Doing all that? That's a landscape company. We don't do that with curb. So that's not something I'm bidding in. They know that going in when I do the estimate. They know that from the website, Facebook page, everything. That's not something we do. We're not a landscape company, and if we started doing that, we'd be more of a landscape company than a curbing company. If they want some of that moved or things done after the fact, I give them 2 or 3 numbers of reliable landscapers that'll come in and move all that rock and take care of all that stuff for them. We do the curb. That's just strictly what we do. Doesn't mean that it's wrong to take all that out and do that ahead of time as far as your curbing company. If you are going to do that, make that an extra charge, because the time you're spending on that, you're not making any money laying curb. Okay, there's no way they would pay me the amount of money if, you know, we can lay 175 to 200 feet an hour. This is $7 a foot. Okay, so 1,300 bucks in that hour for us to move rock and pull all that stuff. If they're going to pay us 1,300 bucks an hour, I'll do it. I guarantee you they're not, because we're losing money if we're not laying curb. That's our job. That's what we do. So all right, boys, another one down, off to the next.